Love and Asperger's. Welcome back to my channel, Wormies. A lot of marriage and family therapists are unfamiliar with the unique challenges and issues that neurodiversity can bring to a marriage. And most neurotypical strategies aren't going to work for you simply because they weren't made for autistic brains. So don't give up on your marriage until you've read this book. I'm Hannah and I have ADHD and autism. On this channel, I make weekly videos rating the representation of neurodiversity in the media. So go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button to join the neurodiverse bookworm family and never miss my latest recommendation. By the way, this is the last Valentine's I'll be spending single. Before I was diagnosed with autism, I found it really hard to understand this whole neurotypical mating dance, I guess you could call it. And I remember when I went to summer camp, the one time I went, I was totally mystified why girls would steal a guy's cap or sweater and run off with it. And when I mentioned that to my mom, that I thought this was utterly ridiculous and stupid that they'd try to get the guy to chase after them, she told me that was flirting. And I thought it was so stupid that I wanted nothing to do with it. When I was older, I sometimes got into relationships just because I thought that was the thing to do, and I wanted to keep up with everyone else. My friends were getting married, having relationships, even having kids. And I always felt like, okay, none of these guys were too bad, but I always felt that I would have to mask who I was, that I would just have to suck it up and deal with uncomfortable situations and change myself just to fit in and basically let them control whatever went on, never standing up for myself. But then I got my diagnosis, and that, along with a quest to understand myself and be comfortable with myself, led me to realize, why am I pursuing relationships that don't work, that don't make me comfortable? What is it that I actually want out of life? And I decided that, I'm going to be okay with being single. It's okay. I can be happy in my own skin, and I don't need a boyfriend, a husband, a man in my life to get away from the issues that I face. It wasn't that long after I made that realization that it was okay to be single, that I could be happy in my own skin, that I actually got in a serious relationship with the man who is my fiance now. And I don't have any more of that feeling of, just suck it up and I've got to change some little aspects of myself. No, I feel completely comfortable around Diego. He's seen me at my best moments, and he's also been with me through one of the most intense public meltdowns I've had in my adult life. And in fact, it was shortly after that, like a few days, when he confessed his feelings to me. And boy, is it a wonderful thing to have someone who supports you, that you can feel totally comfortable around. Diego and I actually read Love and Asperger's together and discussed it. The author, Kate McNulty, is a licensed clinical social worker who counsels couples with Asperger's syndrome, and she herself is on the spectrum. And she wrote this book to combat harmful stereotypes, as well as helping couples to love and understand the upsides that neurodiversity can bring to their relationship, and also to provide tools that can help them make the most of their mixed neurotype relationship. Don't skip over this book just because it has Asperger's in the title. I know there's a big debate in the autism community about whether we should or shouldn't use this term. Some call Hans Asperger a Nazi, some say it's too divisive, creating a wall between us and them. high functioning, low functioning. And honestly, I think the Asperger's debate is ridiculous, and I wouldn't want it in the title detracting from the helpful information you can find in this book. Love and Asperger's is an incredibly neurodiversity affirming book. It explains the terminology, it explains the traits that might cause difficulties with communication between the autistic partner and the neurotypical partner, and attempts to show couples both sides of the coin. That is, the autistic perspective explained to the neurotypical partner, and the neurotypical perspective explained to the autistic partner. And it lists a number of positive traits. I love this quote. It says, "People with Asperger's amuse themselves by dreaming up a variety of solutions to any problem. It's one of the many ways they can expand the world of their neurotypical partner, making each day feel fresh, new, and full of possibilities. If you're a neurotypical who's struggling to think differently about your relationship, your partner might just be able to convince you that it's fun and worthwhile to speculate on other possibilities." She also talks to the autistic partner and tells them that even though much of our behavior is hardwired, we all have innate instincts and tendencies and attributes. There's wiggle room in all of us to improve and become better people. If you have Asperger's, that diagnosis doesn't predetermine your actions. People with Asperger's are just as capable of making changes in their romantic relationship as anyone else. She gives you the tools, and if you are willing to work on your relationship, that is fabulous, and I'm sure you'll go far. Kate uses the stories of real couples that she's counseled in her clinic, recounting certain aspects and then breaking it down and explaining what happened and what they could have done or what they did well in that situation. She tells the story of Molly and David who learned about his autism after his son was diagnosed, and he had to unlearn some of the bad parenting examples that he was imitating from his own father. And she also tells the story of Shayla and Jill, who were dealing with addiction and stress management, as well as a story about Isabel and Mateo, to emphasize the frustrations that sensory issues can bring to a relationship. For example, in her story of Isabel and Mateo, Isabel was on the spectrum, and one night her husband had spent hours preparing this fantastic dinner, but yet she was unable to eat any of it and instead went to eat some ramen. Sorry about that. The dog decided she was going to make a mess and tripped over my tripod. As disappointing as it was for Mateo that she wasn't able to eat the dinner he'd spent hours cooking, she was still able to eat her ramen with him, and they were able to have a nice time on their date night. In the case of Isabel and Mateo, Kate recommended to focus on closeness and not take things personally, because some aspects of Isabel's personality and behavior were out of her control. She wasn't doing it deliberately to be rude or hurtful, and that she really did appreciate the work he'd put in. It can be really frustrating, honestly. Like, how can I be true to my own needs while not being rude, dismissive, or ungrateful to my partner? As Diego and I were reading this book together, there were so many stories and so many examples, and I found myself always saying, True. That's so right. And I'm glad for this book because it made it easier to find the words to explain some of my struggles to him. And I think it's really important when you're dating and preparing to get married to learn all you can about your partner and try to understand them as best you can. This book provides a number of great tools for improving conversation and closeness. Chapter 3 especially talks about why communication matters and how to reconnect after clashes, how to deal with difficult topics and complaints. She also provides some good conversation questions. For example, how can you connect with your kids? In chapter 5, that focuses on family and social life. And in chapter 6, she talks about autism and sexuality, and she encourages you to check out games and couples apps, as well as some questions to get to know your partner better, and the sensory issues and how you can communicate these things so that you minimize frustration and maximize understanding, care, and patience. These are excellent suggestions because sometimes when Diego and I can't figure out what to talk about, we do want to hang out with each other, but because we're in a long distance relationship and it's really hard to do that by phone, we sometimes look up conversation questions and topics online just to get us started thinking, because both of us, I think, struggle a little bit coming up with what to talk about, especially if our day hasn't been very inspiring. This book is an absolute 5 all around in all of the categories. I cannot rate it less than 5. And I love the feel of it, the cover, the weight, the font, the layout. It's just fantastic. I rate it a 5 in accuracy and relatability. This book gets a 5 from me for diversity because it shares the stories of a wide range of couples, from the man with Asperger's to the woman and to LGBT couples. As for accuracy, I cannot detract a single point from it, even though it does use the term Asperger's in the title. Please don't throw out this book before reading it just because of that one little thing. This book is a 5 on the thought-provoking scale for sure, because as it analyzes the stories of these different couples, it challenges you to shift your mindset and learn new ways of thinking. As I said earlier, your diagnosis is just an explanation. It does not determine your behavior, and you can change and you can learn new and better ways of communicating and living with your spouse. Finally, this book is quite accessible, and the font is easy to read. The colors are not jarring to the senses, and each chapter is laid out with boxes and subtitles and headings so that it's easy to skim it and find whatever you're looking for quickly, or if your brain isn't allowing you to focus and read everything in detail, you can just skim it and get a pretty good idea of what she's talking about. It uses clear, literal, and blunt language so that it's easy for the partner with autism to understand it. Finally, it ends with a chapter reviewing and summarizing all of the helpful tips and tools. I want to end with this quote: "Never underestimate the power of acceptance. It is a powerful feeling to know that whatever your differences, your partner accepts you for who you really are and will act accordingly." That is so true. Feeling loved, accepted, and safe with Diego has allowed me the freedom to grow and experiment, try new things, knowing that even if I do fail, I'll not be alone in picking up the pieces, and I have someone who accepts me for who I am. That has allowed me to really blossom in my life, and I am grateful for it. Really looking forward to many, many years of happy marriage in the future. And before I forget, she also gives some criteria for finding a good couples therapist that's neurodiversity affirming, as well as including examples of relationship calendars and other resources in the index at the back. Thanks for watching. So what advice would you give to Diego and me as we begin married life? Tell us down in the comments what strategies you've tried that went really well or went horribly wrong so that we don't make the same mistakes. If you liked this video and want to see more like it, then click here to see my latest review. Don't forget to like and subscribe to never miss a latest review, and of course comment what you would like me to review next. So I hope you have a great Valentine's.